Do you remember a time when we used to love small compact city cars in the UK? It's when the Ford Ka was absolutely everywhere and there was that advert on TV with the Toyota Aygos playing football.
Then the Reds made a break for the blue goal, but Hammond used the Aygo's low weight to make a brilliant interception.
But nowadays, people are so obsessed with cars getting larger and larger, with people even opting to have SUVs as their first cars. And I think that they opt for those SUVs because they think of it as being safer, of having that higher ride height. So are people still buying compact city cars? Well, the likes of Citroën and Peugeot don't think so, ditching their 106 and their C1. And those are cars that used to share a platform with the outgoing Toyota Aygo. But what if you could take those small city cars and blend it with an SUV? Maybe that would equal the perfect first-time car. Well, that is exactly what Toyota has done with the Toyota Aygo Cross. They've offered a small compact city car, but with chunkier SUV styling and some really good standard safety equipment. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you around the Toyota Aygo Cross, telling you everything you need to know, and then giving you my thoughts and opinions. So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. And if you like new car reviews and car content, then hit that subscribe button. The Aygo Cross sits on the same platform as the Yaris and the Yaris Cross, but of course, it's slightly more compact. But just like the Yaris Cross, it offers some slightly more off-road rugged styling. But it's no better off-road, just like that car. Two brands that have already had a go at off-road super minis are the Fiat Panda Cross and the Suzuki Ignis. But unlike those cars, it's not available with four-wheel drive. Instead, Toyota says that the 11mm raised ride height is there to offer a superior view of cyclists and pedestrians on congested city roads, although it might give you slightly more confidence than a lower riding car. But you certainly won't be taking it across a field anytime soon. With that crossover styling, you get some chunkier wheel arches, you've got some really big cladding around the wheels, you've also got a slightly chunkier bumper as well. This is the Edge model, which is second in the lineup, and that brings some exterior styling, including some funky new colours. This is something called cardamom green, and there's also an option to have a couple of other colours, including ginger beige, which is a bit of a risky move from Toyota. Might put a couple of their customers off, not naming who. You also get some gloss black details as well if you go for the Edge model, which matches with the door mirrors and also the roof. Standing here, you can actually see it is pretty dinky in size. And again, if you go for that Edge model, it also gives you that black panel in the back of the car, which I really think it is worth upgrading to get those extras. It may be expensive, especially in this class of car, but Toyota have been sure to offer you lots for your money, including some pretty big wheels. All version of the Aygos get 17s, whilst the top spec models even ride on 18-inch wheels, which are pretty big for such a small car. If you like the feeling of wind in your hair, then a canvas roof can also be added for a little under £900, a pricey upgrade, but something that's usually proved popular in resale. The new Aygo is quite a bit longer than its predecessor, so how does that fare in the boot department? Just like the previous generation of Aygos, it's not a massive amount of space. But inside here, they've managed to squeeze 231 litres of boot space. Now, that's more than the Fiat 500, which gets less than 200, but is slightly behind the Hyundai i10. All versions of the Aygo Cross are a 5-door, so that certainly makes things simpler even if you don't have people you're putting in the back. I find if you've got bags or you want to put them in the back seats, it's always easier to have those extra doors. Getting in and out is not that easy as these rear doors don't come very wide. Once you're in the back, I mean, it's what you expect from a compact super mini. There's no less space in here than there was in my Volkswagen Up, and I think I carried someone in the back of my Up 1-2 times in the whole 2 years that I owned it. For very short journeys, it's more than sufficient. You will only fit 2 people back here. It is only a 4-seater. I've got a little bit of headroom left. I'm 5'5", so if you're anything over 5'5", then you might struggle a little bit. But actually, knee space is not that bad. The only thing, if you are carrying people in the back, that I think is a little bit of a hindrance is these pop-out windows. That does mean that it can get a little bit claustrophobic, especially with this black headlining. There are 4 trim levels offered, with the entry-level Pure starting from just under £15,500, pricey by Super Mini standards. It will set you back around £2,000 more than the other previous generation Aygo. The Aygo Cross gets a decent amount of equipment, which definitely helps justify the price tag. You get a lot of standard stuff you'd expect in small cars, but then it goes above and beyond and gives you some big car tech as well. Entry models all get CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as a reversing camera, although on the smaller 7-inch screen than pictured here. Now, if you go for the Volkswagen Up, you don't even get an infotainment screen. You just get a clip that you have to pop your phone in to use that as the screen instead. The Edge model brings some automatic air conditioning, which is really easy to use thanks to physical dials. I also get things like automatic lights, automatic rain sensing wipers, pretty standard, but then high beam assist. That's some pretty big car tech. And you get cruise control, lane assist, a lot of safety equipment as well. A nice touch of that Edge trim is it brings the cardamom green onto the interior of the car. It has that exposed feel about it, which I actually quite like. It's a simple way of not spending too much money, but just slightly jazzing up the cabin. You've also got it on the steering wheel here and around the gear selector. Plus you also get some light green stitching as well, just to match it all in. The seats are simple but comfortable and feel supportive and robust. Definitely materials used are mixed. In fact, I'd go to say they're not great. I know we expect that from a small car, but I do think they could have done better. There is a lot of this really dull, scratchy plastic. And the whole layout, it's a little bit odd, really, a bit old school. It's giving me Nissan Leaf vibes, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I think some people will like it and it's a quirky design, but I think by giving it a quirky design, they've dated it quite quickly. Again, you get that little bit of green around the infotainment screen, which does tie it all in nicely. And at least you've got a really big screen. This is super clear, easy to use. The graphics aren't exactly the most striking, but actually at least they're nice and light and not dark like some of the other Toyota products I've played around with. The slightly disappointing thing is when it comes to the drivetrains. So the Aygo Cross doesn't get the strong hybrid drivetrain that you get in the Yaris and the Yaris Cross. So it doesn't have fuel economy figures which can do in upwards of 100 miles per gallon. But it does have its own highlights, and that's that it comes with a manual gearbox. But anyway, less talking about what drivetrains you get and let me drive it and tell you about them. So it doesn't get the hybrid engine that you get in the Yaris and Yaris Cross. It doesn't come in a diesel either, it's just a petrol. And the engine might sound a little bit familiar. It's a 1-litre, 3-cylinder, naturally aspirated engine with 71 brake horsepower. And if that does sound familiar, that's because it's the existing engine that goes in the Toyota Aygo. It's actually pretty well suited to this car. I don't necessarily think this needed anything different. After all, it's pretty economical because it's nice and light. You can expect to see fuel economy of around 40 to 50 miles per gallon. It's not going to quite do that 100 miles that the Yaris does, but it's still pretty good for a car in this class. The only problem is it's quite noisy, especially when you're first pulling away, or if you need a little bit of added power. Once you put your foot to the floor, it does sound strained. And the 0 to 62 time is not great either. It's going to take you the best part of 15 seconds, which when compared to some of its hybrid rivals, which are much nippier off the line, it's not great. But the good thing is it has all of those characteristics of those small engines that we know and love, and that's the fact that it's cheap to insure, it's really easy to drive, and it also gets a manual gearbox. That's something that you can't get in the new generation of Yaris. And that's a shame because these cars are so good with a manual gearbox, and that's definitely what you'd want to go for if you was going for the Aygo Cross. The CVT, it's not great. It's a slightly different CVT than you get in the Yaris, which is much smoother. However, the one in the Aygo Cross really can become quite strained, and it does sound like it's struggling. It will lag as well, and it just doesn't equal a nice, enjoyable drive. The manual couldn't be any different from that. It's really enjoyable, really smooth. It's easy to zip between those gears. It's pretty nice. The only problem is you don't have a 6th gear, which is a little bit of a shame if you're doing longer journeys and you're doing a lot of motorway driving. But at the end of the day, these cars aren't really set up for that anyway. You're never going to be pushing it too hard that you'll really feel you need that 6th gear. But if you are doing a lot of motorway long driving, then this may not be the one to go for. Something that's actually surprised me is the steering. It's quite a highlight in this car. I was really expecting it to be light and unresponsive, but it's quite the opposite. It's reasonably well weighted, and that really helps with the body roll, because at the end of the day, this is a lifted vehicle, and that means it does roll a fair bit around corners. But because the steering's quite precise, it means you can nip it around and it handles it pretty well. It's actually making it reasonably enjoyable to drive. The little Aygo Cross is the first car in a while which really piqued my interest. I loved my Volkswagen Up, and I loved how compact it is. And I also like something which is packed full of personality, and that is exactly what this car offers. But let me know, what do you think? Do you like the styling of the Aygo Cross, or is it not for you? Pop it down in the comments down below. I've actually been talking to the guys at Toyota in Bromsgrove, where I got this car from, and they're saying that lead times on this are around 3 to 6 months, which is pretty impressive, especially when you compare it to its German rivals. So if you are looking to get your hands on a Toyota Aygo Cross, then make sure you click the link down below and chat to someone from Toyota in Bromsgrove. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from me, then hit that subscribe button. Until next time guys, see you later.